Welcome back. I'm Salita Adams, Assistant Professor of English at Bossier Parish Community College. And today's module is focusing on finding the subject and the verb in a sentence. Before we begin to find the subject and verb of any sentence, we first have to define what a sentence is. So a sentence is a group of words that has a subject and a verb and expresses a complete thought. A sentence, is key to remember, is also known as an independent clause. And we'll talk more about independent clauses in a different module. And keep in mind that a sentence must have all three components, a subject, verb, and a complete thought, to make it complete and understandable to your audience. Now, when we're trying to find the subject of a sentence, we have to define what the subject is. The subject of a sentence is what the sentence is written about. And there are two rules for finding the subject of any simple sentence. Rule number one is you need to find your verb, whether that verb is an action verb, and we talked about action verbs in Module 1, or if your verb is a linking verb, and we talked about linking verbs in Module 1 as well, so please refer to that module for definitions of action and linking verbs. So find your verb, whatever it is. And once the verb is found, your rule number two is ask who or what is doing the action or is in that state of being is the verb, if the verb is a linking verb. The answer to that question, who or what is doing the action or is in the state of being, is the subject of the sentence. I have a couple of examples that I want to go over with you. Example number one, we have this sentence: the team went to a local restaurant after the game. So step number one, which is rule number one, find the verb of the sentence first. Went is our action verb. We're going to locate our action verb, went. Then rule number two is who or what went. We have to ask that question to find our subject. The answer is team. So team is the subject of our sentence. We have example sentence number two. Policemen wear uniforms on a regular basis. Again, find the verb of the sentence. Wear is your verb. Ask who or what wear. The answer is policeman, and policeman is the subject of your sentence. Our third sentence, as our example of finding subjects and verbs of sentences, he is expecting total concentration. Find the verb. Is expecting. Is our helping verb. Expecting is our main verb. Both words is the verb of the sentence. So to find our subject, we have to ask the question, who or what is expecting? The answer is he. So he is the subject of the sentence. And our last example for finding subjects and verbs of simple sentences is Maggie told the truth. We have to find our verb. Told is our verb. Who or what told? Maggie told. So Maggie is the subject of our sentence. Now, when we talk about prepositional phrases, we learned last time that prepositional phrases begin with a preposition word. And I gave you a list of common preposition words in the last module, so make sure you make reference to that module for that. And the end, or the last word of a prepositional phrase, will be a noun automatically. Now, sometimes it's confusing. Some people think that the noun that ends the prepositional phrase is the actual subject of the sentence. However, that's not the case. The noun in a prepositional phrase is what's called the object of the preposition, which we learned in Module 1. So the object of the preposition will never, ever, ever be the subject of a sentence. So having prepositional phrases in sentences does confuse students sometimes, and they think that those objects of the prepositions are the subjects. However, it's not. Okay? So let's look at an example of that. So finding the subject of a sentence might be difficult, again, when the sentence has a prepositional phrase in it. And remember, a prepositional phrase begins with a preposition. We learned those in the last module. And it ends with a noun. And again, the subject of the sentence will never be a prepositional phrase. So any noun or pronoun in a prepositional phrase will be what's called the object of the preposition. And the object, which is a noun, like a subject is, can never, ever be the actual subject of the sentence. So we have to eliminate those prepositional phrases first, if they are included in our sentence, to figure out what the subject and what the verb is in the sentence. So to eliminate confusion, when there's a prepositional phrase in the sentence, place the prepositional phrase in parentheses, then follow again those two rules I taught you early on in this module for finding the subject of a sentence. Again, find your verb, ask who or what does that action or is in that state of being, and then you'll have your subject there. Let's look at our first example. The attorney in the civil case learned of the defendant's confession. I have two prepositional phrases in this sentence, and to eliminate those, so we know that anything in those two prepositional phrases are not subjects and verbs of the sentence, I went ahead and I put them in parentheses for you. So in the civil case is our first prepositional phrase. In, if you remember from Module 1, is a preposition word. Civil case is our object of the preposition, which cannot be the subject of the sentence. Then I also have in parentheses our second prepositional phrase, of the defendant's confession. Of is our preposition. Confession is our object of the preposition. So automatically I know that any words in those two phrases, in the civil case and of the defendant's confession, cannot be your subject of your sentence or your verb of the sentence. Okay? So now I have left the attorney learned. So of those three words, I need to find my verb, which is learned. So I have my verb learned. Who or what learned? Let's find our subject by answering that question. Attorney learned. So we have attorney as our subject. Our second example sentence is, she puts half of her paycheck in her college fund. Again, just like example 1, I have two prepositional phrases in this sentence. Of her paycheck is the first one. Of is that preposition word. Paycheck is the object of the preposition. And in her college fund is our second prepositional phrase. In is our preposition. Fund is our object of the preposition. So we know any words in those two prepositional phrases cannot be the subject or the verb in the sentence. So we're left with she puts half. Let's find our verb of those three words. Our verb is puts. Who or what puts? We have to find our subject. So the answer to that question, who or what puts, is our subject. In this case, it's she. She is the subject of the sentence. Our third example is both of the children are in daycare. Again, before we even begin to find or look for our subject and our verbs, we have to put our prepositional phrases in parentheses. We have two in this case. Of the children is the first one. Of is our preposition word. Children is the object, so we know children cannot be the subject of the sentence. And we have a second prepositional phrase, in daycare. In is our preposition. Daycare is the object of the preposition. Again, daycare is not the subject of the sentence. So we're left with both are. So I made it very easy for you with this one, so we only have two words to choose from for our verb. Are is our verb. So now we have to ask who or what are to find the subject. In this case, the answer is both. So both is our subject of our sentence. And one last example with finding subject and verbs with prepositional phrases. The road cracked during the earthquake. So we have cracked as our verb. I purposely didn't put parentheses around this example here to show you. So we have cracked as our verb. Who or what cracked? Road is the subject of the sentence. That's our answer to that question. And of course, if you haven't noticed before, but I'm going to let you know now, during the earthquake is our prepositional phrase, so we know that during the earthquake, any words in that phrase would not be the subject or verb in our sentence. Now, another trouble spot in finding subjects and verbs in sentences occurs when we have subjects and verbs in compound sentences. So sentences may be compound, which means that more than one subject and more than one verb may be in that sentence. And again, to figure out what the subjects and verbs are in that sentence, you must follow those two rules I gave you at the beginning of this module. Find your verb, and then ask who or what is doing that action or is in that state of being, and you'll have your subject there with the answer. Let's look at a couple examples. Example number 1. Military men and women have patience and dedication. Let's find our verb. We know our verb is have. Have is our verb. Ask the question, who or what have? Men, women have. Therefore, men, women is our compound subject. We have two subjects for one verb. So keep that in mind. And if you notice, I did not say men and women is our subject. That coordinating conjunction and we learned coordinating conjunctions in module number 1. So and is never going to be a part of your subject or of your verb. So don't put that as a part of your subject. So and again is not going to be the subject of the sentence. Men, women will be your subject of the sentence. We have another example. Sue and Nancy jumped rope, skipped, and held hands. Let's again find our verb first. We have a compound verb. We have more than one verb, and we have more than one subject in this case. Our verbs are jumped, skipped, held. So we have 3 verbs in this sentence, and all 3 will be the verb of the sentence. Okay? Now let's ask who or what jumped, skipped, held. Our answer is Sue, Nancy. So Sue, Nancy is the compound subject. And again, notice the word and, which is a coordinating conjunction, is not a part of your subject, nor is it a part of your verb. So keep that in mind. Then we have our third example. Joseph and his puppy love to go on walks. Again, we have to find our verb. In this case, we just have one verb. Love is our verb. Who or what love? Joseph, puppy, love. We have 2 subjects for one verb, which makes this sentence compound. And our fourth and final example for finding subjects and verbs in compound sentences is the hamburgers and hot dogs have arrived. Let's find our complete verb of the subject, have arrived. Now remember, have is a helping verb, arrived is the main verb. Both words will be the verb of the sentence, so keep that in mind. Don't forget helping verbs in sentences. So have arrived is our verb. Who or what have arrived? Again, we have multiple, we have 2 subjects for this one verb. Hamburgers, hot dogs have arrived. So our subject is hamburgers, hot dogs. And again, if you notice, the coordinating conjunction and is not a part of your subject of the sentence.